It is 8:35 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It's the 4th day of June 2026. This is episode 1335 of Bitcoin, and we're going to begin with Coinbase and somebody called Better Homes. We've talked about them before, but they are going to be back in the news here on the Bitcoin and podcast with me, your host, David Bennett, bringing you all the news that you can use about Bitcoin and macro from around the world. And yet again, we've got macro going on all around the world. Kalshi's in the news. They've launched they've actually launched their regulated Bitcoin perpetuals. I know a lot of this stuff that I'm going to talk about today, you're going to be going, isn't that bad timing? Well, you got to remember, man, all these people scheduled this shit like months in advance. Yeah, it is what it is. Tether is also going to be in the news with a sugarcane-powered Bitcoin miner. And again, you'll ask, well, is it the best time? Russia sanctions a British teenager. Could you imagine being 17 years old and being sanctioned by one of the largest and most powerful countries in the world? Kind of cool, honestly. Perplexity and AI lawyers are also going to be in the news. And there's a problem with Trezor, although people shouldn't be freaking out. Trezor is a hardware wallet, and there's been a vulnerability found. They swear up and down that your funds are SAFU, and I keep telling you, Ledger, Trezor, just stay away from that stuff. You want to go with hardcore, solid Bitcoiner-based hardware wallets for all your cold storage. I recommend Cold Card, and I keep hearing really good things about Bitbox. So try Bitbox or go to CoinKite. Get a real hardware wallet by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Coinbase and Better Fund, first Bitcoin-backed mortgage, plans a nationwide rollout soon. This is out of The Block, written by Yogiti Khatri. And she says, Coinbase and Better Home and Finance Holding Company have funded the very first Fannie Mae-backed mortgage using Bitcoin as collateral and plan to make the product available to qualified borrowers nationwide by this summer. The product, first announced in March, is designed to allow homebuyers to use their crypto holdings toward a down payment without selling their digital assets. Initially, the product supports Bitcoin and the USDC stablecoin, with plans to add more digital assets over time as the market matures. Coinbase and Better Homes, or Better Fund, or whatever you want to call it, have now closed the very first such loan for Joe and Amy, a married couple in their early 30s from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Joe is a software engineer and Amy is a graduate student. They had built savings in digital assets but lacked enough cash for a traditional down payment, the company said. Rather than selling their Bitcoin, paying capital gains taxes, and giving up potential future upside, Joe and Amy pledged their Bitcoin as collateral and purchased their very first home. At Coinbase, we believe that Bitcoin should do more than sit in a wallet. It should work for the people who hold it, said Mark Troyanowski. I can't pronounce his name. Head of Consumer and Platform Partnerships at Coinbase. Quote, funding the first token-backed conforming mortgage is one of the most tangible demonstrations of that vision that we have seen, end quote. The structure involves two loans, and they close simultaneously. The first is a standard Fannie Mae mortgage identical to a conventional conforming mortgage, while the second is a separate crypto-backed loan that funds the down payment, a Coinbase spokesperson told The Block. For example, a borrower purchasing a $500,000 home could obtain a $400,000 Fannie Mae mortgage and use a separate $100,000 crypto-backed loan for the down payment. To secure that down payment loan, the borrower would pledge around $250,000 worth of Bitcoin as collateral. That's because the collateral pledge ratio for Bitcoin-backed loans is roughly 2.5 to 1. For USDC-backed loans, the ratio is 1.25 to 1. While they are technically two loans, Better structures them so that borrowers experience them as just one loan, the spokesperson said. Both loans share the same interest rates and amortization schedule, resulting in a single monthly payment. Maximum loan sizes follow standard Fannie Mae conforming loan limits, which vary by region, the spokesperson said, adding that the product offers both 15 and 30-year fixed rate mortgage terms. The pledged crypto remains in custody for the duration of the loan through Better's custodial account on Coinbase's platform, the spokesperson said. Now, demand for the product has already been strong ahead of the nationwide launch. The spokesperson said the wait list currently represents around, $250 million in potential loan volume, with more than half of interested borrowers looking to purchase a home within 6 months. Around 76% of waitlist borrowers are already Coinbase users, the spokesperson said, noting that California, New York, and Florida currently represents the top 3 states of interest to prospective borrowers. Better, which has funded more than $110 billion in loans to date, said that 41% of its pre-approved customers qualify based on income and credit, but do not have enough cash for a traditional down payment. The company said crypto-backed mortgages provide a new path to home ownership for those borrowers. Okay, so they've actually made a real loan, and Bitcoin is the collateral. I do wish that they had given dates as to when that loan originated to see where those people had put up their Bitcoin relative to the price action that we've been seeing as of late. But, they didn't. At 2.5, a 2.5 multiple, that there's a lot of headroom there. I mean, for 100,000, you got to put up 250,000. That's actually quite a bit of headroom to work with. And if they did originate the loan, like at a local low, let's say, then, maybe, just maybe, they're going to be okay. And the reason I say it that way is that we're all seeing the price action. We're not idiots, and we don't need to, nobody needs to bury their head in the sand about what's going on or try to live under a rock. I still think that what's happening is that the traders are really trying to close that CME gap. We dipped into it late last night, but we didn't close the gap. And I just get this feeling that there are enough traders out there that look at technicals, that trade on technicals, even though that, most of my listeners are not that way. There are enough people to move markets, and they do. And that's a problem. It made me start thinking earlier today about mercantilism, especially back in the old days, with the Vincenzi family or Vinici family, or I can't remember, the banking family out of Italy. And they were basically a merchant's bank. So they would fund, merchants to go and buy goods and bring them back and sell them at hopefully a profit. And when you think about back in the 1500s, 1600s, merchants were the traders. This is what I was thinking about, is that traders, like people that trade stocks and bonds and market makers and all these guys, they don't actually ever deal in hard goods or hard commodities. They're just trading sentiment. They're not even trading value. I don't believe they're actually trading value. All they're looking for is which way is the wind blowing, and they're going to rotate capital out of X and into Y without really trading an actual physical good or translating or transmitting real value. I've said this for years, when I look at charts, most of the time, I think I'm looking at a graph of mass human psychology, not really value of any particular thing. It almost looks like directionality on candles of how people are thinking, feeling at any given time. And it bugs me because, back then, merchants weren't exactly, I don't know, what would you call it? Merchants were filthy fucking rich, right? It's like not all of them, but everybody was a merchant. Yeah, everybody was bringing stuff to Venice for sale, in the 1530s and 1550s and whatnot. And everybody, all these merchants were just like parading around in robes and shit like that. So they were kind of hated on by the lower class. They were the rich class. They were definitely the upper class. They were beyond upper middle class. They were into the lower rungs of the upper class, right? So, but at least they got there by taking real risks of sending boats across oceans or seas or channels to go get stuff, bring it back, and see if people wanted to actually buy it. And they did. For all the rich merchants, they definitely did. They turned a profit by saying, I think our people over here in Italy would really like this product. And I know where to go get that product, so I'm going to sanction a ship to go across this ocean, and hopefully it doesn't sink on the way there, and especially hope it doesn't sink on the way back. And then we're going to do all the work to put it out in the street and sell it. And that's what moved markets. There's where price came from. Not anymore. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. The price signals are so distorted with noise and bullshit because A, the world is run by clowns, but B, the communication lines, the digital communication lines, information travels at the speed of light, whether it's good information, valuable information, or just worthless crap. It all flies at the speed of light. So the noise is beyond anything that the merchants of Venice would have ever seen. But then there's Kalshi, who has gone live with America's first regulated Bitcoin perpetual futures market. Yay! Bitcoin Magazine, Micah Zimmerman writing this one. Kalshi announced on X today that Bitcoin perpetual futures are now live for trading on its platform, one of the first times American investors can access regulated perpetuals on domestic soil, the company claimed. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission approved Kalshi's BTC Perp contract on May the 29th, issuing an order for approval to Kalshi X LLC under Commission Regulation 40.3. The contract references the spot price of Bitcoin and carries no expiration date, making it a structural departure from every futures product in the U.S. had previously authorized. Kalshi CEO Tarek Mansour told CNBC's Squawk on the Street that perpetuals are the purest form of trading, framing the launch as the company's evolution from prediction market leader to a full-service derivatives exchange. Quote, onshore, safe, and regulated perpetuals will improve capital allocation and risk management for countless American businesses, Mansour said. The scale of the market makes the opening significant. Offshore perpetual futures volumes reached $92.9 trillion in 2025, outpacing spot crypto markets and representing a product class that had been entirely inaccessible to U.S. institutions. That capital flowed to offshore venues like Binance and Hyperliquid beyond the reach of American regulators. Reuters data puts 2025 perpetual futures volume at $61.7 trillion. That's up 29% from 2024. Perpetual futures work through a funding rate mechanism. Rather than settling on a fixed date, a contract stays open indefinitely, and a funding rate adjusted every 8 hours keeps the contract price tethered to the underlying spot market. Kalshi makes its funding rate history visible in transaction history on its platform. CFTC Chairman Michael Selig, appointed by President Trump, signaled the policy shift in March of 2026, telling the Milken Institute that United States listed perpetual futures were coming in the next month or so, and it looks like he was right. His statement alongside the Kalshi approval called it a major step forward in delivering on President Trump's goal of cementing America as the crypto capital of the world. Kalshi, valued at $22 billion following a May 2026 funding round, plans to expand perpetuals to more than a dozen cryptocurrencies pending further regulatory reviews. Agricultural commodities are excluded from the product slate. The competition is moving fast. Kraken announced plans to list CFTC regulated perpetuals within 30 days of Kalshi's approval, covering BTC and other crypto. Robinhood and Gemini have also signaled intent to enter the space. The CFTC said it will evaluate additional perpetual contracts on a case-by-case basis. So it's not just Bitcoin that they're doing here. If I remember right, the headline says, what does it say? Yeah, first regulated Bitcoin perpetual futures, but that's not where it stops. Kalshi is now basically a trading market like all these other exchanges. And it's interesting, for me, it's rather interesting to see somebody enter that market from the prediction market side rather than from what we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing people out of, Bitcoin exchanges starting to get into that. So it's just this again, it seems like it's like a moth to flame, where what the real attraction here is beyond Bitcoin, beyond, I don't know, any equity that you can name, beyond any commodity that you can name, is the markets. The most noisy place on earth, and you are doing everything that you can at breakneck speed to be able to be regulated so that you can also be part of the market, which is going to induce more noise. Yeah. It's like the Dow, right now the Dow Industrials are up like 860 points to yet another all-time high. And yet NASDAQ and S&P are both down, and they're the guys that basically have all the plays in this artificial intelligence stuff. So what the hell's going on with just regular old-fashioned blue chip stocks? I go back to my statement. This is noise. Nobody knows what to do with their money at the same time that the market just has nothing but noise in it, and it's just building and building and building and building. And I don't know anything about calling for a crash in equity markets. I'm kind of not there yet, because there's a lot of exuberance out there. And there's also something else that's going on. It kind of hasn't been all that long that the amount of people that do not live in the United States are able to access United States markets. That hasn't been all that long ago that really started to take shape. And a lot of it, I swear to God, a lot of it came along with the regulators making room for crypto exchanges. Well, they started making room for a lot of other stuff too. And one of the things that they opened a door on to the United States markets, equities, commodities, perpetuals, derivatives, you name it, was people that do not live and are not citizens of the United States. That puts the whole world wanting to get into the United States markets. I don't even know how to process that when you start thinking about, oh, well, now the Spanish have a chance to get into the United States markets at a rate a hell of a lot higher than it used to be, instead of going into their own stock market. Brazil would be the same way. Argentina the same way. So definitely seeing a shift in macro around the world, and this Iran thing is just simply not helping matters. But, Bitcoin is in a depressed state right now. And when the market offers discounts, we lean in, said DDC Enterprise of Bitcoin holdings as they lift their Bitcoin holdings to 2,804 Bitcoin. This is out of the block, written by Brian Danga. DDC Enterprises added 90 Bitcoin in its latest purchase as the company continued building its Bitcoin treasury position during a broader decline in the asset's market price. The acquisition brings the company's total Bitcoin holdings to 2,804, placing it 28th among publicly traded corporate holders of the cryptocurrency, according to Bitcoin Treasury's data. In an X post on Wednesday, the company framed the purchase as opportunistic, writing, "When the market offers discounts, we lean in." DDC reported an average acquisition cost of $78,736 per Bitcoin, a year-to-date BTC yield of 48.3%, and 0.058 BTC per every 1,000 shares. Bitcoin is trading below 63,000 on Thursday, down 6.7%. It's actually back above that a little bit, I think, right now. And then, let's see. Oh, DDC Enterprise operates Asian food brands. That's it. That's what I remember DDC, and I thought it was funny that they're an Asian food brand. They operate Asian food brands, including Day Day Cook, Nana Lim, and Yai's Thai. The company is increasingly focused on Bitcoin accumulation while maintaining its food business operations and has set a target of reaching 5,000 Bitcoin by the end of 2026. The company previously outlined a $124 million equity raise intended to accelerate its Bitcoin accumulation strategy. In April, Benchmark initiated coverage of the company with a buy rating and a $3 price target, citing what it described as a clear runway for DDC to expand its Bitcoin holdings to 5,000 by the end of the year. DDC shares closed down 7.1% to $1.18 on Wednesday. Yeah, well, that's kind of to be expected. But, you know, they've actually got a higher price point on average of their Bitcoin purchases than Strategy does, and everybody's freaking out about Strategy. They're still freaking out about Strategy. I had to wade through headlines today to not just be mired in, oh my God, Strategy sold Bitcoin. And nobody says 32 Bitcoin. They just say stuff like Strategy unloads Bitcoin. Strategy unloaded its Bitcoin position. This is fake news. They sold 32 Bitcoin. That's not unloading their position. It's the one thing about this show is the hard part is having to wade through the immense amount of bullshit to bring you just the at least the clearest signal I can of what's going on throughout the day, right? So, you know, I am totally surprised that this strategy narrative is still running as hot as it is. Guys, it was only 32 Bitcoin. And then, yeah, he retired some preferred debt position, but he did it all in cash, and he did it at a discount. So he actually got a better deal on it. And yet people are freaking out. I mean, the market is twitchy, which is why you should eat chocolate. Go get some from bitcoinbeans.co. They are the Circle P vendor of the day. The Circle P is open for business. It's where I bring plebs just like you with goods and services to plebs just like you who want to buy those goods and services, but you will buy it in Bitcoin, because if you're not selling it in Bitcoin, you're not in the Circle P. Invest in your health like you invest in Bitcoin. Cacao is a nutrient-dense superfood, rich in magnesium, antioxidants, and theobromine for natural energy, as well as mood support. If you're in a bad mood right now, you might want to go get yourself some Bitcoin beans. They craft 1-pound blocks of 100% pure cacao grown regeneratively in Colombia and paid for in Bitcoin. There's no chemicals, there's no fiat, there's no middlemen, just real food sourced with integrity and exchanged through proof of work. That's bitcoinbeans.co. Bitcoinbeans.co. Use Bitcoin and as a coupon code, receive a 5% discount at bitcoinbeans.co. Use Bitcoin and. Tether-backed Adecoagro to launch sugarcane-powered Bitcoin mining in Brazil. Micah Zimmerman, Bitcoin Magazine. Adecoagro. Hold on for a sec. I got to check something. Something just popped up and snagged my attention, and I may need to actually act on it. No, I don't. Thank God. Okay. Adecoagro, the South American agribusiness company with Tether as its majority shareholder, is set to begin Bitcoin operations, mining operations in Brazil, using electricity generated from sugarcane waste, with a target launch date of July 1st, 2026, according to various local reports. The project will be based in Ivanhema in the state of Mato Grosso do Sul and will start with 10 megawatts of capacity. Holy shit. And approximately 1,280 Bitcoin mining rigs. Mateus Lechuga, the project manager of the company, confirmed the initiative during the Roots of the Future Technology and Innovation to Build Tomorrow Forum held June the 1st, 2026. The energy source is bagasse. That's a fibrous residue left after sugarcane stalks are crushed during sugar and ethanol production. Sugar mills routinely burn bagasse to generate steam and electricity for industrial operations. In large-scale plants, this process produces surplus energy beyond what the mill requires, creating an asset that can be redirected to power-intensive operations such as Bitcoin mining. The company holds more than 230 megawatts of renewable electricity generation capacity across South America, giving the company an established energy platform before the mining rollout begins. The 10 megawatt pilot represents but a fraction of that installed base, positioning the launch as a commercial test of whether Bitcoin mining can scale as a complement to existing power sales. Tether, the issuer of USDT stablecoin and one of the most capitalized companies in the digital asset sector, acquired a controlling stake in Adecoagro, giving it exposure to physical commodities, agricultural land, and renewable energy infrastructure. The Bitcoin mining project extends that strategy into digital asset production, with the company serving as the operational arm. Back in September of last year, the company and Tether signed a memorandum of understanding to explore a partnership focused on Bitcoin mining powered by renewable energy in the country. The initiative aims to monetize surplus energy, improve grid stability, and support decentralized networks by linking agricultural energy production with digital infrastructure. Tether said it will contribute expertise in digital assets and sustainable mining, including its proprietary mining OS, which will manage site operations and is expected to be open sourced. The pilot also reflects the company's broader strategy to diversify its energy use and potentially add Bitcoin to its balance sheet, positioning it alongside traditional assets like farmland as a long-term store of value. So they're burning the waste product of sugar production and ethanol production and generating this much energy. I mean, that's 230 megawatts of renewable electricity. That's a lot of capacity, and they're only going to be using 10 megawatts of it. This kind of goes into something that I think about a lot, and that is the production of biochar. And I say that because in the production of biochar, synthesis gas is extracted in that particular process. And what you do is you put wood into something called a retort, and you heat it up really high initially. Once it starts to off-gas flammable and volatile chemistries, and it does do that, you can use that gas and burn it to keep the chamber hot so that the reaction continues to move until there's just no more volatile chemistry left. Well, you can, in most of these issues, there's a lot more gas produced than what needs to be used to keep the reaction temperature hot. And that can be drafted over and cleaned up a little bit just running it through a simple biofilter of like wood chips and carbon to get it detarred and all that and cooled down. That gas can be used to run a generator, and that generator can be used to run Bitcoin mining rigs. And it is part of the Cathedral project, at least in my mind. And I promised I was going to be able to give you guys a new episode of Cathedral. It's one of the most difficult aspects to present about the Cathedral project. And it's every time I sit down to do it, either something happens or I start getting a little frustrated as to how do you explain all the stuff that goes on in that part of Cathedral. But this is part of that. And if you just think about how much baguette that they're burning to get 250 or 230 megawatts, 230 megawatts of power, there's a lot more stuff that you can add. And these guys are actually burning it. Okay. I mean, they're full blown burning it and using it to drive steam generators. That's not what biogas is, or synthesis gas is in the biochar manufacturing process. But there's a lot of agricultural waste in the United States. A lot. I mean, a lot. And if you can convert even 20% of that dry weight into pure carbon and get it back into the soil benefits. So we as humans, we need to figure out how to reuse what we need to be able to reframe what waste is, like waste heat, waste, process waste, that kind of thing. It's not waste. Some other system can use it. And that's one of the tenets of permaculture and regen agriculture. But I don't want to get all into that because we have numbers to run. CNBC futures and commodities. Brent North Sea is down 2 3/4 of a point to $95.07. Yeah, and West Texas Intermediate is down 3.15% to 93 a barrel. That's a pretty good drop. But natural gas is acting as a hedge today, 4.5 points to the upside to $3.36 per thousand cubic feet. Gasoline is down 4% to just over $3 a gallon. Murban crude is down 3 2/3% to 93 6 dimes. Metals are doing collectively well, but palladium is down 1/3. Gold is up 0.8% to 45.05 2 dimes. Platinum is up 1.2%. Silver is up 1/2, and copper is up 1/3. Ag is mixed today, mostly in the red. Biggest loser is chocolate, 3.27% to the downside. Biggest winner is lumber, 1.17 to the upside. Live cattle up 1.7, lean hogs down 0.8. Feeder cattle up, 3.14% today. And the S&P right now is up 0.13%. The NASDAQ is down 0.7. The Dow is up, 1.62%. That's 824 points in the green right there. S&P Mini is up 0.2%. And then Bitcoin is at $63,690. It's a $1.28 trillion market cap. We can only get 14.2 ounces of our favorite shiny metal rock with our one Bitcoin, of which there are 20,038,407.4 of. Average fees per block have been running high for the second day in a row, 0.04 Bitcoin taken in fees on a per block basis. There's about 45 blocks carrying 105,000 unconfirmed transactions waiting to clear at high priority rates of 2 sats per VByte. Low priority is going to get you in at 1. Hash rates dropped a little bit more. 928 exahashes per second is the protection of the Bitcoin network, but I'm totally fine with that. Reminder to go to bitcoinandshow.com. That's bitcoinandshow.com to get synopses of the daily episodes, plus a direct link to the daily episode. I just kind of rehash the high points of what's going on in the show. So if you don't have time to read, or rather don't have time to listen to the whole show right when you want, but you want to know what the hell I'm going to be talking about, bitcoinandshow, all one word.com. That's bitcoinandshow.com is the way to go about that. From Sanctions, Swab, and Scouts, yesterday's episode of Bitcoin and Jason High with 250 sats says, the only thing stopping me from unplugging and becoming like an Amish person is that I like Bitcoin and I want a future free from the US dollar. This is kind of a misconception that Amish people don't use any technology. They do. The technology that they use has to be useful for them to use it. But yes, Amish people actually do have cell phones and computers. I listen to an Amish guy all the time. He's a farmer and he's got a podcast, which means he's neck deep in technology. From Nick Dose, I get 226 sats. He says, cheers right back at you. Donations are low. And this show runs on donations. And I know the sentiment out there is not great, but don't forget me. I'm here. I'm trying to bring it to you every day so that you know what the hell's going on. That's the weather report. Welcome to part 2 of the news that you can use. Russia sanctions British teenager for alleging A7A5 use in funding Ukraine war. CoinDesk, Jamie Crawley. This is just a weird human interest piece. Russia sanctioned a British teenager for his role in exposing the alleged use of ruble-pegged stablecoin A7A5 in funding the war effort against Ukraine. Alexander Browder, who is only 17 years old, penned a report for foreign policy and national security think tank, the Henry Jackson Society, which the Russian Foreign Ministry described as spreading defamatory speculations and false information. Browder, who is the son of Vladimir Putin critic Bill Browder, was sanctioned along with 3 other UK nationals and Washington Post reporter Catherine Belton. He described it as a badge of honor in a post on X on Wednesday. The A7A5 stablecoin was designed to bypass sanctions imposed on Russia following the invasion of Ukraine in 2022. So there's not much to that story other than the fact that they sanctioned a teenager. Could you imagine being a teenager, getting to go to school and being able to prove that Russia sanctioned you? Okay, we're going to do some AI stuff because AI is here and it's not going away. We might as well know about it because, right now it's kind of sucking the wind out of Bitcoin. Perplexity wants your laptop to do part of the AI work so it doesn't have to. Oh, well, this may be interesting. Jose Lanz out of Decrypt. Perplexity CEO Avarind Srinivas took the stage at ComputeX in 2026 in Taipei on June the 2nd alongside Intel CEO Lip Bao Tan to announce what the company calls the first hybrid local server inference orchestrator. The system, coming to Perplexity Computer in July, automatically decides which part of an AI task to run on your local machine and which parts that get routed to more powerful models in the cloud without asking you to choose. Quote, today we're announcing the next step for personal computer, the first hybrid local server inference orchestrator, Perplexity announced. It decides what work should be run on your device and what work should go to cloud agents, automatically routing each part of a task to the right place. Quote, the right goal for an AI system is to deliver the most token value per watt for each user, Perplexity wrote in an official announcement. 3 competing pressures make that pretty hard. Accuracy demands the most capable models, privacy demands some data never leaves your machine, and cost demands that you don't spend a frontier model's compute resources on a task a smaller one can handle. The solution Perplexity calls hybrid or agentic inference addresses all 3 of them at once. A compact model runs locally on your device and acts as a traffic cop, figuring out which information is sensitive enough to stay local and which tasks need the full power of a cloud-based frontier model. Quote, hybrid agentic inference is for work that includes sensitive data but needs powerful AI. Things like financial records, health information, and personal files, the company explained. The compact model runs locally on your device to determine when sensitive data should also be kept locally. Meanwhile, work that needs a frontier model's full capability runs on an actual server. Inference, or the process of running a trained AI model to generate a response, is the computational work that happens every time you send a prompt to a chatbot. Right now, almost all of it happens on remote servers owned by AI companies. That means your financial documents, health queries, and private notes travel to someone else's computer before you can get an answer back. This is why you see auto modes or low thinking modes on your chatbot. AI companies will always try to force users into routing interactions in the cheapest mode possible for them. The CEO has been direct about this. In a Bloomberg television interview at Computex, he said the quiet part out loud, quote, "You don't want all your compute centralized in servers and everything running through the largest models. Some people are spending $500 million per month. What you actually want is efficient value per watt per user. Offloading inference work to user hardware reduces those bills for Perplexity. Local inference is the best for those companies since it cuts a lot of the costs, but has a major point in favor for AI users. It keeps that data on your machine. The trade-off has always been power. Smaller models that run locally are just less capable than the large ones living in data centers. Perplexity's orchestrator tries to get both. Simple tasks, summarizing a document you've already written, formatting text, lightweight classification, all run locally. Complex reasoning gets routed to the cloud, ideally without the sensitive parts of your task attached. The company says this happens automatically mid-task and invisible to the user. Whether the routing is as reliable in practice as it sounds in a Computex demo is a question the July rollout will answer. One clarification worth making. This is not Perplexity giving away an open source local model that you control. The local component is a compact model Perplexity deploys as part of its app. The cloud component still routes through Perplexity's servers. Users who want a fully offline self-hosted setup, you're not going to find that here. But the numbers give the framing some context. Perplexity's revenue grew from $100 to $500 million, while headcount increased a mere 1/3. A company that routes queries across models that it doesn't train has strong incentives to keep compute costs as low as possible. Shifting part of the inference burden to users' devices, billions of PCs already in circulation, is a pretty efficient way to do that. The privacy pitch is real, but it aligns conveniently with the financial one. Every major player in AI is pushing toward on-device or hybrid inference right now. Apple Intelligence runs most of its sensitive processing locally on M-series chips, and Microsoft's Foundry Local reached general availability in April 2026, enabling full AI inference on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux without any cloud dependency. NVIDIA announced RTX Spark at the same Computex, where Perplexity made its announcement, targeting local LLM inference on laptops and desktops. Google's approach, as Decrypt reported, has been more controversial. Chrome was quietly installing a 4 GB Gemini Nano model without user consent, and the AI mode button most users actually see doesn't even use it. Perplexity's differentiation is the orchestration layer. Rather than asking users to pick up local or cloud up front, the system decides on a per-task basis in real time. The CEO said that the approach is chip agnostic. The Computex demo ran on Intel Core Ultra Series 3, but NVIDIA processors are also supported. The feature is currently exclusive to the Perplexity for Windows PC app, but a broader rollout is planned. So that's the end of the article. I want to go back up here and see if I can find... Well, I lost it. I lost it again. Holy crap. Where was it? Okay, here it is. I found it. Some people are spending $500 million per month. What you actually want is efficient value per watt per user. offloading inference work to user hardware reduces those bills, at least for Perplexity. Maybe not for you, but for Perplexity. And this is very, very reminiscent of SETI at home and folding at home. And if you don't remember what those were, and they're still, I'm pretty sure they're still around, SETI is the Search for Extraterrestrial Life Institute or something like that, investigation. And folding at home is about protein folding. And both of them basically say, look, if you'll install our app on your machine, it'll work in the background. And when you're away from your computer, but your computer's still on, it will harvest the unused CPU cycles to do all these calculations on, radio waves that have been received by SETI and mathematical formulations of protein folding from folding at home. So it was able to offload all this compute onto people who were donating their CPU time. In this one, you're not really donating your CPU time because these guys are all for-profit models. SETI is a nonprofit. Folding at home is a nonprofit. Still, be that as it may, the folding at home guys give their data to pharmaceutical companies, and pharmaceutical companies harvest that data. And, I get that part. SETI, though, is fully nonprofit, and there's not going to be a whole lot of, marketable products out of SETI. So that really is a true donation. But in this case, they're doing the same model. You're just basically helping other people get rich while you're doing it. But I would rather have this kind of system than always running all of my data through like somebody else's machines. My problem here is, how do I know what's sensitive? I mean, you might think that's counterintuitive. What I'm saying is that they may not know something is sensitive, or they may realize that it's sensitive, but do you know? And even if you do know what you're about to send out, I've caught my kids almost sending out information that they don't need to be sending out because they did not realize the ramifications of that particular information. So they did not realize that it was rather personal stuff they were trying to send out. That doesn't stop just because you become an adult, right? But even if you knew, even if you were 100% sure that you could say, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt what I write is going to, whether it's going to be personal or not. How can we verify what got sent to Perplexity in this using inference? I don't see how they're going to be able to show me that I didn't send any information, but it's not going to stop this. This is all coming. And now even lawyers are being affected. AI lawyers are already better than law professors at reasoning, say law professors. It's not good. Jason Nelson, writing for Decrypt. Law professors preferred answers generated by artificial intelligence over answers written by fellow professors, according to a recent study led by Stanford University that examined how large language models perform on legal reasoning tasks. In the study, 16 professors from 14 U.S. law schools, including Stanford, Yale, New York University, the University of Chicago, Georgetown, UCLA, and the University of Virginia, created 40 contract law questions covering legal doctrine, case law, hypotheticals, and policy issues. Researchers saw it as an ideal way to test the capabilities of modern AI. Large language models are increasingly promoted as educational tutors, yet most evaluations focus on domains with a single ground truth. Many disciplines, however, hinge on judgment, reasoning, weighing ambiguity, and reaching defensible conclusions. Law provides the sharpest test, the researchers wrote. In 2,918 blinded comparisons, professors selected the answer they would rather give a student. Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro won 75.9% of its matchups against human instructors, while the tech giant's Notebook LM won 74.75% of the time, giving AI-generated results the nod over humans in roughly 3/4 of responses. According to the researchers, to determine whether the results reflected a broader professional consensus, the researchers analyzed how often professors agreed when evaluating the same answer pairs. Quote, observed agreement exceeded the level expected if judgments were entirely idiosyncratic, indicating that the LLM's success reflects alignment with common disciplinary criteria, they wrote. The study found that AI models also outperformed human instructors across multiple categories, including recall questions relating to case, code, or doctrine, hypotheticals, and policy discussions. Quote, to probe whether any LLM advantage might be driven by surface-level writing style rather than substantive content, we additionally engineered a set of lexicosyntactic features, answer length, structural organization, reasoning nuance, legal anchors, confidence, tone, clarity, and pedagogical support, and tested how much of the preference pattern they could explain, according to the study. AI-generated answers were also flagged as harmful less often than those written by professors, with Gemini recording a 3.4% harmfulness rate and Notebook LM a 3.6, compared with 12.06 for human instructors. It's 4 times less harmful. In a separate analysis of additional models, Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.7 ranked first, followed by OpenAI's ChatGPT 5.4 and Gemini 2.5 Pro, while every AI model evaluated outperformed human instructors on average. The researchers cautioned that the study did not measure whether the answers matched each professor's individual teaching preferences, leaving open the possibility that AI-generated responses were viewed as generally acceptable rather than tailored to any one instructor's approach. Quote, while LLM responses are generally preferred over those of human instructors, our evaluation setting does not allow us to directly measure the extent to which instructor preferences are satisfied. It is at least theoretically possible that LLMs, although generally delivering stronger responses, still generate answers that are merely viewed as good enough. The study comes as courts, law firms, and law schools increasingly grapple with how artificial intelligence should be used in the legal profession. In March, the Los Angeles Superior Court began testing AI tools to help judges manage growing caseloads, while law schools are adding AI training programs. Quote, the potential benefits of these new technologies as a force multiplier in the practice of law just can't be ignored, Mississippi College School of Law Dean John P. Anderson previously told Decrypt. Quote, whether our students plan to be litigators or transactional attorneys, their future employers will expect familiarity with these AI tools. We want the firms hiring our students to be confident that every MC law grad is competent in AI technologies. At the same time, however, law firms continue to confront cases undermined by hallucinations and other AI-generated errors. In April, law firm Sullivan and Cromwell admitted to a U.S. bankruptcy court that a recent filing in a high-profile case contained fake citations that were generated by artificial intelligence. So even law doesn't escape this. But again, there's going to have to be, AI is going to need one thing all the time, a human. To interface reality and meat space with the potential compute power of AI, the human's going to sit in the middle. You either learn how to use AI or you end up getting left behind. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. Thankfully, though, I mean, because think about it this way. If a human doesn't sit in between meat space and compute space to be that bridge, because we're the ones that also live in meat space, but we're also the ones that have built the compute space. It's ours to command. It is a tool to be utilized, right? AI I doubt very seriously AI is just going to one day say, hey, you've got you humanity guys, y'all have a real problem and here's what it is. And have us go, oh shit, we never saw that. Bullshit. We know what the problems are. I mean, we literally know what the problems are. The only thing that I could think of AI coming up with that we haven't figured out is some weird quantum level or astrophysical phenomenon that no matter what we do still isn't really going to affect the fact that I'm going to want a steak at one point in my future, or I'm going to walk out my door, or I'm going to be living in meat space. We've got all the problems. It's up to us to figure out which ones really do need to get solved. We're the arbitrators between meat space and compute space. But you're going to need to learn how to talk to compute space. And up until now, that was always done by programmers. Pretty much always done by programmers. A problem, you see a problem, you need compute space to utilize it. What do? You build a program. How do you do that? Well, hopefully you've got computer and software engineering under your belt or something close to it. Now we don't need that. Now the problems are able to be disseminated to compute space by people who are just thoughtful people, but didn't go to, I don't know, MIT. It doesn't mean that they're not smart. It just means that they just weren't all that interested in learning software engineering, but they still see problems. Like there's a lot of problems in regenerative agriculture seeks to solve a lot of problems from conventional agriculture. It's going to take somebody who understands farming in conventional context, regenerative agriculture in our context, to be able to translate what the problem is into a language that compute space would be able to help work on. And people are doing that. But the person that's actually delivering the goods to compute space is not a computer scientist. I think this is actually good. But what's not good is Trezor. Hardware vulnerability in the Tropic 01 secure element of the Safe 7. Funds do remain safe, however. Trezor has, oh, by the way, this is Atlas 21 writing. Trezor has publicly disclosed the existence of a vulnerability in its flagship hardware wallet, the Safe 7, clarifying that user funds remain protected due to the nature of the exploit. The flaw was discovered during an independent security audit conducted by Ledger's Don John team, which reported a lesser fault injection attack against the Tropic 01 secure element chip. That's all we need to know. There's a problem with Trezor's secure element. They say all funds are safe. You would have never even had a problem thinking about it if you had been using a cold card, or from what I understand from what several people are telling me now, a Bitbox. I haven't used a Bitbox, but I keep getting told about Bitbox. And I keep getting told about Bitbox by really good hardcore Bitcoiners, and they are the ones that, that are on my camp that I will never use a Ledger hardware wallet again, and I've never used a Trezor. One reason I don't use Ledgers is that the hardware is crap. The other reason that I don't use it is that it's a shitcoin wallet, and I'm done with that. Trezor is also a shitcoin wallet, and I have no reason to do that. I want a Bitcoin-only wallet. I want a cold card, and Bitbox is also a Bitcoin-only wallet, from what I understand. I will look into it a little bit more. But you want a hardware wallet, but you also want it to be clean, and you want it to be developed by people that at least have a reputation of being the hardest core Bitcoiners that you can find. And like Rodolfo Novak from CoinKite, the maker of CoinCard, he is as paranoid about security as I've ever seen anyone paranoid about security. That's the guy that I want building my hardware wallet. I might not, I'd actually like to go drink a beer with him, but if he's security paranoid, I may get all stressed out and want to go away. But I definitely want to buy his product, because he is a fanatic when it comes to security online and in your hardware wallet. So Bitbox as a hardware wallet, Cold Card as a hardware wallet. Don't use Trezor. Don't use Ledger. Just don't. Okay. That's the end of the show for the day. I know it's a hard day, and yesterday was hard, and the day before that was hard, and the day before that was hard, and the weekend before that was hard. I get it. I'm feeling it too. You have any idea how much energy it took not to be sad? You know, I say that because you can do it. You can bring that energy up within yourself regardless of all externalities. And there are hard times for everybody. We're not alone. I mean, yeah, I wish I was one of those guys that got in on the AI trade. Do you really? Because that bubble's going to pop and nobody ever knows when. No, AI will not go away. Just like the internet didn't go away when the internet bubble popped. But AI is a bubble. I can feel it. I can smell it. I can see it. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. My sister called me in the middle of the show. So if you noticed that there was an edit at one point or another, that's why, because I didn't want that ring to come through. So I re-recorded that part. But she wanted me to look at Psalm 86. If you are completely hell-bent in not looking at the Bible and you just don't want any part of it, go ahead and close out now, because I'm going to read this psalm to you. All right. I think it's important. I've never read a Bible verse on the podcast before, so this is going to be a first. But maybe somebody out there needs it, because everybody's scared again. And fear has a tendency to cause nerves to fray in ways that basically cause every externality that you see as a potential threat. And that's not good for you. So this is a psalm from David. Psalm 86. Bend an ear, God, answer me. I'm one miserable wretch. Keep me safe. Haven't I lived a good life? Help your servant. I'm depending on you. You're my God. Have mercy on me. I count on you from morning to night. Give your servant a happy life. I put myself in your hands. You're well known as good and forgiving, big-hearted to all who ask for help. Pay attention, God, to my prayer. Bend down and listen to my cry for help. Every time I'm in trouble, I call on you, confident that you'll answer. There's no one quite like you among the gods, O Lord, and nothing to compare with your works. All the nations have made are on their way, ready to give honor to you, O Lord, ready to put your beauty on display, parading your greatness and the great things you do. God, you're the one. There's no one but you. Train me, God, to walk straight. Then I'll follow your true path. Put me together, one heart and mind, then undivided. I'll worship in joyful fear. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you, dear Lord. I've never kept secret from what you're up to. You've always been great toward me. What love. You snatched me from the brink of disaster. God, these bullies have reared their heads. A gang of thugs is after me, and they don't care a thing about you. But you, O God, are both tender and kind, not easily angered, immense in love, and you never, never quit. You look me in the eye and show kindness. Give your servant the strength to go on. Save your dear, dear child. Make a show of how much you love me, so the bullies who hate me will stand there slack-jawed. And you, God, gently and powerfully put me back on my feet. So there it is, Psalm 86, a psalm of David. The first Bible verse I've ever read here on the Bitcoin and podcast. I hope it helps, because I know a lot of you out there are not feeling well. I get it. I can see it on Nostr. I can't even go to X right now. X is just, it's been a cesspool for a while, but it's like a hotel had a stopped up drain, and all of a sudden they got it unstopped, and well, here I thought it was a sewer before. Holy smoky Joe, dude. No, it's really bad out there in sentiment land. And then there's all the bullies, like the psalm was talking about, that just pile on. They're just looking for a way to make people feel terrible. Hell, they might not even hate Bitcoin. Well, some of them clearly do, like Peter Schiff. But there are some people, literally, there are some accounts out there that I've seen that are just reveling in being able to cause misery and pain to other people. You know? And the psalm talked a little bit about bullies. So, I don't know. I wish I knew what to tell myself and what to tell you. When people on Nostr are fighting, I know sentiment is really, really terrible. And there's other people out there who go touch grass. And I get that. I really do. You should go outside and touch grass. But also, maybe this is the time to look within yourself. Are there any problems that maybe irrational exuberance over something like Bitcoin might be masking? Something that you need to solve? I know I got some. I'm going to be totally humble here. I've got some serious fucking problems that I need help with. And the only help that I'm going to be able to get is from myself, and being able to really functionally stand back and say, wow, well, I feel bad enough now that I can actually see that this has been an ongoing problem since before even Bitcoin. So use the time. Figure out what it is that you want to change about yourself. Maybe look at this as a way to clear out some of the noise and the anticipation and the patience that we always try to have, and say, I'm just going to work on myself. I hope you do. I'll see you on the other side. This has been Bitcoin and I'm your host, David Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and hope to see you again real soon. Have a great day.